Hey everybody, it's Sherry. Today I wanted to do a special video on parenting spirited children. It's a huge question that I get these days on what are the best ways to navigate through these challenging times with children that are very different than previous generations. And I have a unique perspective because not only do I work with a lot of children, but I have three of my own very spirited, very different children, and I have gone through many trials and mistakes, and I've found some things that work, some things that don't, and it's not really a one size fits all approach. But what I want to talk about today are what I call the 5 positive parenting tips that I think are pretty universal, and then I want to also talk about 5 mistakes that are common that parents tend to make, and myself included. And so, no judgment here. These are just things that I have done myself, and I am self-correcting every single day, because this is a marathon. Parenting. There, despite the fact that there are tons of books and tons of mentors out there and guides on children and how to parent. There are a lot of different perspectives and a lot of different views, and a lot of people aren't coming from a spiritual perception. And that's where I want to, that's where I feel like I differ, because I take all the factors, their past lives, their metaphysical, multidimensional beings. A lot of them are having challenges unique because they are first timers here on Earth. So there's a lot of factors at play right now. And I want to talk about different ways that parents can navigate through these times. And also those of you that don't have children that perhaps could think about things from a different perspective, and may not judge this generation quite so harshly. And when you understand the root of who they are and why they're here and why they are and why they act the way they do, because it's different. It's very different than other generations. So make sure, don't forget. So number one, listen. That is my biggest number one tip that I can give to parents. We tend to overpower them. We tend to talk over them. We tend to not listen to them, and we tend to demand respect. And what these children are coming into this planet here are filled with wisdom. They're quite evolved. They're here to bring in wisdom and knowledge. I talked about this. I've talked about this many times, where we have the light workers. So light workers are spiritual beings that are farther in their evolutionary path, that are here to guide the masses in many different ways, in many different forms. And the light workers have a high vibration, and they come to this planet to shift the overall vibration of the environment that they're in, which is why they're spread out in so many different places in the world, and also why they feel like oftentimes they're alone, and there aren't a lot of people in their life that are, that have things in common with them, or think the way that they do. And this has been going on for thousands and thousands of years, but more closely within the last couple of 100 years, and maybe even the last 100 years, to really shift this particular timeline that we're on, the ascension, the great shift, the great awakening, whatever you want to call it. And now we have progressed so far in this transformation, this period of this evolutionary path, that the children are now coming in, and they are involved. They are spiritual beings from all over the galaxies, and many of them have never had a life here before. So they are literally putting their own their own evolutionary path on hold, in order to oftentimes kind of regress back into a lower density field, in order to guide and assist as many people as possible. So these children are quite different, and they're quite unique. So they have a lot to say. So why do we need to listen to them? Because they have the amount of wisdom that is permeating out of these children, these special beings, is not like we have ever seen before, and they say things that we have never heard before. So you might have come across one of these children, and they say things to you that you're like, how could you even know that at your age, with your experience, with your environment and what you've seen and what you've been through? It doesn't really equate. They're talking as though they are, an elder, which they are, just not in this time and space. So they're here to help shift paradigms, to awaken their parents, to awaken the environment of anybody really that comes into contact with them, with the things that they say, the way that they act, the things that they do. So we encourage parents to take moments out of the day to listen to what they say. So if they're arguing with you about a point, or something that you want them to do, and they say that they don't want to do it, and listen to why. Because oftentimes they will make you rethink why it is that you're asking them to do something, or why it is that you're making them do something repeatedly, because it's a routine. Well, my mom did it, my mother's mom did it, that's how we have always done it. And they're here to make us question, well, why is that? And is that actually still relevant in this period of our ascension? Why do we need to do it that way anymore? Maybe there is a better way. They're here to show us better ways, and they're very innovative, they're dynamic. They have a lot of thoughts that are very forward thinking, and it makes a lot of people uncomfortable because humans are creatures of habit, at least up until this point. So we don't like change. A lot of people don't like to change. They'd rather just stay who they are because it's easy. But they're here to kind of make us uncomfortable, make us crawl out of our skin a little bit, and push through any of these boxes that we've been programmed into, so we could be like, oh wow, what a great idea. I can't tell you how many times I've heard one of the children that I work with, or my own, to say something to me that I thought, wow, what a magnificent idea you just had. Like, why haven't we been doing it that way? So they're here to show us other ways. And so I encourage you to listen with an open heart. And I promise you, you won't be surprised by some of the things that they say. We want as parents to also create boundaries and respect, so that it has to be done in a respectful manner. You can't talk back. You don't want them to just blatantly yell at you. So you have to navigate in a way through treacherous water sometimes if you have very spirited children, because they are so dominant, and you need to try to bring the humility back into it, and help them be more empathic and kind with their words. And we're teaching them that, because a lot of them don't have that. There's a disconnect with the kindness aspect, because they in their mind don't see themselves as a 2, 3, 5, 7-year-old child. They feel and know that they are you know thousands of years, millions of years old, and have so much wisdom to share, that they don't like being a child. So it's really challenging. And they don't have the patience that we have grown to have over time as an adult. So we need to give them a little bit of space for that. The second thing is give them choices. Children, especially spirited children, don't like being told what to do. They need to know that they have a choice. So give them choices within a spectrum that you feel is appropriate. So, which one of these outfits do you want to wear? And you've approved all of the ones that they have the option. Which toys would you like to play with? Which toys do you want to bring to the beach? You can't bring all your toys, but here are the ones that you can choose from. What is it that you want to eat this week? Get their input. What do you want to have for dinner this week? Let's put a menu together, so that they don't feel like they are just robots in our world doing what we want them to do. So we want to give them choices so they feel like they're independent, but it's in a controlled environment, so that we set forth the choices, and then they get to choose which ones they feel is best for them. And it helps them grow. It helps them make choices. And sometimes they make choices they don't like, and then they complain about it and say, oh, I didn't like that choice. But we teach them that that's what life is about. You make choices. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it may be the right choice for you. Sometimes it doesn't work out how you thought. But the next time you'll think about it a little bit more in depth and weigh the pros and cons. And then so it's problem solving in our reality, but giving them the respect that they should get, with the ability to choose, and instead of just telling them you have to do it this way. So the third one is help them find their passion. Okay, so a lot of these children hate school. They don't want to be forced into doing sports. They don't want to be forced into doing a lot of different things. So help them find what they enjoy. It may not be academics. It may not be sports. It might be art. It may not be art. Maybe you want them to do art and they hate art, and you don't understand why they don't want to draw. Well, maybe they're more analytical, and maybe they want to play with robots, or take things apart, put them back together, and understand how they work. So you have to know your child and what it is that they enjoy, instead of making them do the things that you think that they would enjoy, or you see other children doing it and say, well, all children should be in sports. I don't think so. I don't think all children should be in sports. Now, no one's going to agree with everything I say, and that's fine. But these are the things that I've put together through my research with other children and through my own experience. Making them do something they don't want to do is going to cause resentment. It's going to lower their vibration, and it's going to cause tension. So help them find what they're passionate about. And if they don't like something, then they try something else, and they keep finding going until they find something, because this is going to train them for life in the future, and finding their true passion with work, and that they should not choose their life choices should not be made on a decision of how much money I'm going to make. Is my mom and dad going to like it? Are my friends going to make fun of me? None of those things should matter. We should teach them to find their passion based on what they actually enjoy, so that they follow a life of happiness and at peace, so they're not so filled with anxiety and stress and worry. So this is a big one, and there are a lot of different ways that we can provide different opportunities, and they don't always have to cost a lot of money. So work with your budget, work with the weather, where you're at, whether it's really cold a lot of the year, you can't go outside, or vice versa. Work with it and use your imagination, and I'm sure you'll come up with something that your child will be interested in. Don't punish them out of anger. Number 4. This is a hard one, because as adults, we can be impatient, and we get really frustrated with our children, especially when they seemingly talk back and they are behaviorally not aligning with what we think that they should align with. And it can be quite challenging and frustrating. And so we get to our boiling point, and we get to a point where we're so frustrated that we act out, and that's when you say something like, "You're grounded for a month. You can't do this for 2 weeks." And then, like, when you calm down, you realize, gosh, that was kind of harsh. So I recommend, and then you don't follow through, and then they lose respect for you, or they're not going to believe you're going to carry forward or follow through with your punishment. So you have to calm yourself down. So I always tell the moms that I work with and the dads, take a mom or dad timeout. So in those moments of true, stress and anger, stop fighting with each other, because the children will also feed off of your energy. So if you're frustrated and angry and you're giving off that energy, they're going to get defensive. They're going to fight back. And you're not going to get anywhere with it. So take a mommy timeout, take a daddy timeout, go outside, do whatever you need to do, give yourself time and calm down, and then rationalize and get their side of the story, because our perspectives are so important in this reality, especially moving forward, because sometimes we misconstrue certain situations based off how our eyes see it, and how I see it, they may not see it that way, and they're genuinely not understanding why they got into trouble, because they're seeing it through their lens, and we're seeing it through another, and there's a disconnect. So we want to try to calm down and think about what it must be like for them in that moment, and why they're acting that way, and take a breather, take a breath, and then come back and try to talk through it. But don't punish them in the moments of anger, because then resentment you will have shame, there will be resentment, and it's not a good formula for mutual respect between you and the child, where they're going to trust you later on when they want to come to you with something important, because they're worried about, oh, my mom and dad are going to yell at me and I don't feel safe, so I'm not going to say anything to them. And then next thing you know, you don't know anything about your child. They don't come to you. They won't talk to you. They're afraid. They hide things from you because they're afraid of getting into trouble. If you open up the lines of communication and you calm down, and sometimes we realize it's not that big of a deal. You might overreact in the moment. The children are running fast, and next thing you know, they drop the whole thing of lemonade all over the counter, and it's everywhere. And you're like, "What are you doing?" And then you calm down and you realize, seriously, like, what's the big deal? Okay, we wasted a bunch of lemonade, and it's going to be sticky if we don't clean it up. But, like, is it at the end of the world? No, it's not the end of the world. But there are certain things that are more serious, that we have to make them understand that the reason that we reacted that way is out of fear of them getting hurt for another situation where perhaps they could have fallen and really hurt themselves. But sit down and take the time to explain to them why. And they are very smart, and they will understand or understand, and you have this dialogue going back and forth. Number 5, let them be who they are. This is a hard one for a lot of parents, because they try to instill beliefs, wants, desires, likes, dislikes in their children, and they imprint that on them. And then they expect them to like the same things, or they're surprised when they don't like the same things that the parents like. And so we really need to let them be who they are, act the way they want to act. If they talk funny to you and you're embarrassed by it, who cares? If they walk a little bit different than other children, as long as there's no physical issue that needs to be checked out. Maybe they're just a little bit quirky. Maybe they're trying to figure out how to move in this body. Maybe they mumble a little bit, or their speech is off, or they are not talking, and they're 4 years old and they don't say anything. Whatever the reason, they are who they are for a reason, and they will shine if you provide an environment for them to nurture whatever it is that they're trying to figure out, who they are, what their likes are, their dislikes. And so just let them be, let them fly, let them be unique. It's okay if they're different. That's why they're here. They're not coming here to blend in. They're coming here to stand out. A lot of them are peacocks and they want to fly and they're flamboyant and they want attention and they demand everybody looking at them. And then others, they're very shy in this world. They're very sensitive to energy. They want to hide. They want to recluse. They want to be hermits. So we want to understand our children and who they are, why they react the way they do. Because if you understand them and you look at each child as an individual, then you will really have a knowing of how to parent them. Or, if you're a grandparent and you're watching them a couple days a week, or, you're in childcare, let them be who they are. Who cares what anyone thinks? Honestly, why do you care what the neighbor's going to say if they want to ride their bike with a tutu and goggles on their head? Whatever makes them happy, it makes them smile. So as long as they're, in an environment where it's safe, let them be who they are. Let them fly. Let them be different, because perhaps they are going to inspire other children their age, and even adults. They may inspire other adults to be different. My daughter has changed me so many different ways to be just much more open and very different than I used to be. And, I did that from watching her not be carefree and not care what other people think. And sometimes we do overreact and we'll say, Aramis, why are you doing that? And, those people are looking at you. And she was like, so who cares what they think? And I, I heard that enough times where I was like, yeah, who cares what they think? So it worked on me too. So I'm learning, just like everyone else, how to navigate through these awkward years, these challenging years of parenting, but with spirited children. They're very different than children previously in previous generations, and they choose that. So those of you watching this that are the mom, the dad, or the grandmother, they chose you for a reason. They chose you because they knew you could do it. They chose you because they knew you would defend them. They chose you because you knew that they would be them, that you would allow them to be themselves. So pat yourself on the back, because they chose you for a reason, and you're paired together to support each other, and perhaps they're here to help you grow and to help heal you. So let's talk about some common mistakes that parents make, including myself in the past, and I'm working through them still as well. Number one, don't push them to do something that you want them to do. A lot of parents make this mistake. You have to go to medical school because all the men in the family are a doctor, or you have to do this because your 5 generations have been doing this business, and you have to come walk into it. And whatever it is, don't make your children, or don't make them do something that you wished you had, that you did. You missed the boat. Oh, I wish I would have gone to medical school. I wish I had become a lawyer. Or wouldn't it be cool if I was in marketing? And next thing you know, you're grooming your child for something that you would like to do, but they don't want to do it. And there are a lot of adults that I work with right now that are trying to backpedal and figure out what makes them happy, because their parents did force them into being a lawyer or a doctor or something that they weren't interested in, and they are miserably unhappy, and they can't find joy in their life, and they resent their parents for it. So try to, again, this goes back to helping them find their passion. Let them figure it out. Let them figure out what they like, but don't push them to be something that they're not, or trying to be like you or someone in your family because they have to, because everyone does it this way. So this is a big one. Number 2, judging them based on what you would do in a situation. Oh my gosh, this is the biggest mistake people make. Do not judge anybody, but don't judge your child based on you saying, oh, well, if it were me, I would have done it this way. Who cares? Because they're an individual, and they need the opportunity to make mistakes or try different things, and It has nothing to do with whether or not they're going to fail or they're going to achieve certain milestones. It's really all about letting them be who they are and figuring that out through trial and error, through likes and dislikes in their own environment, in their own social structure. So judging them on, oh, why'd you do that? If it were me, I would have done it that way. Well, okay, so you're not really teaching them to think for themselves. You're thinking them to teach, okay, because then they're going to try to make decisions moving forward. Okay, so what would my mom do in this situation? What would my dad do? Or I can't do it this way because my dad's going to get mad at me. Or I can't do it this way because my mom is going to be upset. And so you're teaching these children, your children, not to trust their intuition. And they have to respond to situations that is inorganic to them. And they need to try to shift themselves to do it in a way that you think is right. And remember, times are changing and they're bringing in so much wisdom that their way probably likely is the best way right now, but maybe 20, 30 years ago, it wasn't. And that's what we need to recognize as adults now. Things are different and they don't need to be exactly the same way that they used to be. They're ever changing, and allow these children to explore that and bring in wisdom from other places, because that's what they're here to do. Number 3, we got to stop comparing children to other children. Oh, well, all the girls at school, like, they like to wear these things. All the boys play with this. Who cares? Don't judge your other children, and don't compare yourself to what other people deem your child should be doing or should be playing with, or making them kind of blend in with everyone else. Uh, these children are different. They say different things. A lot of them don't even want to play with toys. A lot of them want to be with adults. A lot of them don't have any interest in dolls, and they want to go outside. Maybe some of the boys have interest in playing with the girl toys. Who cares? Let them explore. Let them identify what is good for them and what they like, what they don't like. But the milestones is another big one, and the labels. Everyone who knows me knows how I feel about labels. We cannot use these labels anymore because it's segregating and disconnecting children and making them feel like there's something wrong. The Asperger's, all the spectrums, ADHD, the dyslexia. First of all, those are spiritual gifts. And we're soon going to recognize this in the mass community. A lot of us do already, but many are going to find out soon enough that these are actual gifts. And I've said this over and over and over. It's in my books. These are gifts. These children are labeled this way because they don't fit in the norms of society of what they've deemed is appropriate. But in reality, they're coming in with differences for a reason, because they are evolved, they think differently, they are multidimensional, their brain synapses are firing at rapid speed, which is why they can't concentrate on one thing. They're very dynamic, and that's how it is in a quantum field. Everything is instant. It's boom, 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 instant manifestation, this and that. So they're coming into a world that doesn't reflect that yet, but it will, and they're showcasing skills and unique characteristics that will be cohesive to that environment that we're going into. And that's why they're very special and unique, and they should be regarded as beautiful beings of great potential, instead of being ridiculed and put in separate classrooms and placed on medication, made to go to counselors who don't understand them, who make them feel worse about themselves, put them down, and then the children feel insecure and compare themselves to other children. So no more milestones of, okay, at this age my child should be doing this, or we got to stop all of that. The labels, the milestones, and judging and comparing to other children. Let your child be you, and let your child be them, and that's it. You don't need to compare it to anyone else, not even their own siblings. My 3 children did different things at different times. And if I look back and I tried to come up with some sort of a graph to determine when they were going to walk and crawl and eat and do this, it would have been all over the place. So they were different. All of them are different. So if you take that on a wide scale of all the children in the world that are even coming in every single day, how can we possibly compare? How can we possibly categorize that into an average of, okay, they need to be within this bracket or this bracket? We need to stop the comparison, because it doesn't relay anymore. Simply, it just doesn't relay. It's not possible to do that. Number four. Well, actually, number four, I kind of just said, going along with the false labels. So I just blended the two together. And lastly, but not least, number five, don't make your children do things that they don't want to do. So I've already touched on this in other areas today that I've mentioned, but let them try the things that they want to try. Don't make them do things that they don't want to do. If they're like, my daughter really wanted to try gymnastics, I put her in it. She did it for 2-3 weeks, said she hated it. I think because she just felt insecure based on what the other girls were able to do. Regardless of what her reasoning was, it doesn't matter. As she said, I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. I don't feel good when I'm here. I want to leave. Okay, I'm not going to make her. I'm not going to force her. I don't care if I paid for 8 sessions and we went to 3. Like, to me, her well-being is more important to me than the money that I just lost. So I said, okay, let's find something else that you like. So yes, encourage them to try things. Don't shelter them and say, oh, you don't have to leave the house, Jimmy, if you don't want to. Well, no, we want to encourage them to try, and let them know it's okay if they don't succeed. I don't even like using the word fail, because fail to whose eyes? Like, who determines whether or not you fail? Like, so that's another false label. But if they don't enjoy it, it doesn't make them feel good. They're not happy when they do it. It causes them anxiety or stress or like funny feelings in their stomach. Then they're doing something for whatever reason. It's not suiting their soul. So we find something else for them, but we don't force them, because then it trains them later on that it's normal to put yourself in situations sometimes that to do something that you don't want to do, because sometimes you have to. And I don't believe in that. And that's going to make them get into awkward and uncomfortable situations later in life where they feel like they have to do something out of like, oh, I don't want to disappoint that person. I don't want them to be upset. No, no. You stop it from a young age so that they don't grow up feeling like they have to do things that make them uncomfortable. Okay, there's a lot more parenting tips, but I felt like this was an easy and digestible number of tips that we can positive tips, but also 5 things that you can try to avoid. Now, again, no one's perfect. I'm certainly not a perfect mom. I work at it every day. Some days are better than others, but these are things that I feel like are very universal and anyone can try. And if you do really great, and then one day, you've had enough and the mommy break didn't work, and you yell at your children, the fail safe always is come back and say, you're sorry. Admit to your child that you made a mistake, you were wrong, and that you are sorry for hurting them. And then they will respect you more than anything. And then what I like to call Control Alt Delete, then you move on, and everybody is in a very loving, cohesive, balanced environment. So nobody feels like they're walking on eggshells. No one feels afraid. The last thing I ever want is my children to feel afraid of me. Like me coming home, oh no, mom's coming. That, like, the thought of that to me is so disconcerting that I I don't even know how to comprehend that. No child should ever fear their parent. Yes, they did generations ago, and yes, that was accepted generations ago, to keep them in line. That is no longer acceptable, in my opinion. Now, if someone's watching this, they don't agree, well, then stop listening to me. If this doesn't resonate with you, that's fine. But I think a lot of people it will resonate with, and you know what works best for you and your family. And so just know that it's organic, it's holistic, it's ever changing. Your children are changing frequently, just like you are. And there are a lot of challenging times behind us, but also, of course, ahead. But I think that we're going into a density where we are going to be able to tap into a higher consciousness and bring in our wisdom, that we will be able to better navigate through these challenging times with more love and compassion and empathy, which I believe is what these children, a big part of what they're here to do. And then from there, it's okay, innovation, anchoring us into this new reality. The children are the architects of the new world. They're going to be the inspiration, and they will guide and lead the way for the children that come after them, and the generations and generations and generations that come. So I hope this was helpful for you today. And be patient with yourself, love yourself, forgive yourself for making mistakes. Or if you're, a grandparent watching this and you're like, oh my God, I did all of those things. Okay, forgive yourself. You didn't know better. We're all learning, we're all ever changing. And this is how we evolve, by accepting the things that we may have messed up on and saying, I forgive myself. I still love myself. I still love my children. I know they still love me, and you move on. That is what a quantum, multidimensional being, that's how they operate. They let it in, they let it out. They acknowledge it, they let it out. They forgive, they let go, they love. So love yourself, love your children, and love everyone else around you. And I hope this was helpful, and I'll come back again soon. Okay, bye.